Well, hello everyone. Happy holidays. What a better background than our Christmas tree. I hope you all are having an absolutely lovely day today. Tonight we are going to be doing something that I have been wanting to do for the past, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, but time has just not been on our side, plus I'm recovering from a cold, and now my fiance has said cold. Not to mention, in this video you will probably hear the sound of my cat running back and forth because she isn't eat and we can't get her spayed till January 31st. No, 30th. 30th is her spay day. So, yay, I say sarcastically. But we're gonna try this anyway. So, I'm not sure how many of you know this or not, but I am actually autistic, and what comes with autism, at least in my case, is a tendency to hyperfixate. And one of my biggest hyperfixations throughout the last, let me think, carry the one. The clock is helping me do math. You'll also hear the clock chiming too. One of my biggest hyperfixations since 2010, August 2010, has been Invader Zim. And so today, I thought it would be fun to go through and talk about and kind of correct the 107 facts about Invader Zim from Channel Frederator. There was one specific fact that made me want to make this video, and we're going to do it. I'm going to be pausing so I can talk about the different facts that are mentioned in this video, and you're getting my face and my nodding head because personally I don't want to use the visuals from this and screen record it because personally I don't want to deal with the copyright problems that will arise from that should I choose to do so. So we're just going to listen to the video, and there's a lot of good points, and as always we're giving a little bit of grace. I am no Sheldon Cooper. There might be some information that I don't know. I have watched this video before, so I have a few good talking points, and of course more will come up as this video progresses. This video itself is already 30 minutes long, so my video on this is probably going to be close to about an hour long. So grab some cookies if you have any, grab a snack, grab any holiday favorite treat or drink or anything that you like to enjoy, and sit back and let's do this.
It's the black sheep of Nicktoons that invaded your childhood, stuffed it full of doom and piggies, and then ended far too soon. What else?
Dude, I'm gonna turn this volume down. Hold on. Oh my gosh. Right about there. Yeah, that's like Sims playing volume. Okay.
But Invader Zim. So how did they even get this massive cult
No, it's too
classic on
quiet.
air? Turns out that recruiting an edgy comic book writer to create a children's cartoon is just about as easy as taking over the world. I'm Adrian with Channel Frederator, and we're counting down 107 facts that will destroy you. I mean, that you should know about Invader Zim. Let's go.
I mean, to be fair, this would destroy someone with a weaker constitution. Either that or someone like Sheldon Cooper, who might be as hyperfixated on Invader Zim as me and might know a lot about Invader Zim or not know as much as they would like to. But other than that, I don't see how this video would destroy you, so I don't need to put a disclaimer.
Fact number 1. Invader Zim is the twisted creation of alternative comic book artist Jonan Vasquez. Before working on Zim, he had a few comic series, his first being Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, a dark humor comic featuring a knife-wielding psychopath. Yep, Vasquez was perfect children's network material from the beginning. Number 2.
You know, if I'm going to be honest with you, I know they were looking for an edgier cartoon to do, but there were plenty of other edgy cartoon creators that they honestly could have pulled from. It is no secret, and I won't go into why here, that I don't really like Jonan Vasquez, to be completely truthful. He definitely wasn't suited to make a show for Nickelodeon, but honestly, it did pay off because we got the masterpiece that is Invader Zim, so I can't complain too much.
Vasquez was approached by Nickelodeon after a representative named Mary Harrington liked his work with Squee, a spin-off comic series of Johnny the Homicidal Maniac.
Okay, to be fair, Squee I think is a much more, I won't say it's child-friendly, but it is about someone in the age demographic that Nickelodeon wanted, and I guess she hadn't seen Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, so it makes sense why she would have perhaps thought of Jonan Vasquez as someone who was capable of creating like that edge between edgy and kids cartoon. Personally, I think this show would have better fit with something like Adult Swim or Cartoon Network even. Not Nickelodeon, not necessarily. This video kind of gets into the reason why I think that, and I'll go over that in more detail too.
Doubted they wanted to make a series out of his comics, but he was happy to come on board to make a cartoon anyway. Number 3. In one interview, Jonan stated that the overall idea for Invader Zim was born from mostly a collection of things Jonan was interested in as a kid. Aliens, paranormal investigators, science fiction, monsters, Monty Python humor, Douglas Adams,
I love Monty
and the general
Python.
horror show of his cinema addiction. Number 4. Vasquez came up with a premise for Invader Zim within an hour. He liked the idea of an alien
That is true.
incredibly advanced system.
He actually talked about this at InvaderCon too, at the Jonan Vasquez Just Sitting at You panel, where he literally came up with the idea while he was lying in bed the night before the pitch, and then he kind of fleshed it out more as he was driving there. Which, honestly, I used to think that was kind of half-assed, but honestly, looking back on it now, it's really cool.
With the power to overthrow the planet Earth with minimal effort, deciding to make things harder for himself and stay in school instead. Number 5. Vasquez.
I love that message. Truth be told, sometimes staying in school is a little harder. Not in terms of high school, you legally need to do that, but like sometimes going on like that school college path is harder. I ought to know. And yes, Zim has the power to destroy the Earth with minimal effort, but let's face it, had Dib been a Steven in Steven Universe, we would have had a Peridot situation.
Was only 22 years old when he began work on Invader Zim for Nickelodeon, and he
He's
had
younger than me.
absolutely no experience in animation beforehand. Most people that age would have just graduated from college and would be begging for a job as a production assistant. Not bad, Jonan. Not bad at all. Number 6. For Vasquez, the biggest change from working on comics to working in TV was the amount of people he had to deal with. Thousands. He called it absolute misery. However,
You know what? Honestly, I feel that. That's one of the reasons I don't participate in the societal corporate workforce, is because of just all the people that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I like to work for myself. I'm a very introverted person. I think Jonan is too. In fact, you can definitely tell he is just by the way that he was at InvaderCon. In that, we have a very common agreement.
he says that the experience was incredibly gratifying, but also fiendishly frustrating. Number 7. Some people thought Zim's name came from Sergeant Charles Zim from Starship Troopers, but according to
I have yet to look up videos on what that character's actually like.
Vasquez, his main character was nameless for a long while during the show's development. Zim was actually the name Vasquez gave a Tamagotchi belonging to one of his past girlfriends.
That story is
Number
so
8.
cute.
While working at
And then he made a cute character from it, and then years later would deny that that character was cute. Just, I could make a whole video on that.
Nickelodeon in Burbank, Vasquez actually ran into Clancy Brown during a recording session. Clancy Brown, of course, is famous for playing
Yes.
the voice of Mr. Krabs, as well as, you guessed it, Sergeant Charles Zim from Starship Troopers. Brown also wondered if there was any connection between the Zims. Number 9.
Oh my gosh, you guys, do you want to know who else Clancy Brown voices? This is not an Invader Zim fact at all, but it'll keep the majority of the people who watch this my videos happy. He also voices Silas in Transformers Prime, and he also voices a favorite character of mine in Star Wars Rebels. Actually, he's not really a favorite, but he voices a character in Star Wars Rebels named Ryder, and I don't know, I guess he's cool.
When asked about Zim's design, Vasquez said he looked like any other character stripped down to his basic form. Zim was essentially modeled after the generic idea of what an alien looks like, and just went from there. Number 10. An early model...
I know, like, it went from there, but before Zim, we never got any aliens like the Urkins, truth be told. Like, yeah, we got green-skinned beings with, like, different color eyes, and, like, if you want to see a generic design for aliens, like, go look at the Sims 4 aliens. Like, that is the most generic you can get for aliens. But, in terms of, like, aliens in Zim, like, we never had aliens that, thrived off of an electronical device, except maybe, like, the Borg in Star Trek, but I also don't know that much about Star Trek, so I can't confirm or deny that. And, oh man, don't the Krang and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles do something similar? God, it's been forever since I saw that show, and I only ever saw, like, snippets, but, Invader Zim, like, in terms of alien character design, was super, super, super ahead of its time. Also, you're gonna hear my computer fan going, because it's a Mac, and, the poor thing is hot.
Can be seen in Squee when his teddy bear is explaining to Squee all the things to be afraid of. Vasquez was working on conceptual art for Zim at the time, so he just slipped it in there. Number 11. Zim's personality is based on the part of Jonan Vasquez that refuses to listen to anybody who has ever tried to hold him back from achieving his goals. Though
I'm gonna go into an entire video on this, but Zim as a character, honestly, is an inspiration and served as an inspiration to me for a long time. So another good on Jonan.
We told him that he'd never make a substantial living drawing cartoons. The only difference is that Vasquez is...
Look at the YouTube animators now, guys. Come on.
Really self-destructive. You hear that, kids? You can do anything you set your mind to, unless it's world domination, in which case you'll become a laughingstock. Number 12. Invader Zim's series director was Steve Russell, who had previously directed many of Klasky Csupo's Nicktoons like Rugrats, The Wild Thornberrys, and Rocket Power. Number 13. The show's original composer, Michael Tavera, wasn't a great fit for the show. Vasquez described his music as having a more children's television sound, with a much more traditional and not as surprising theme. Members of the Invader Zim crew felt that Tavera's theme was out of place, finding it humorous how cheesy it was. However, they added that the reaction was not mean-spirited, and that Tavera had received little information about the series before submitting the music. Number 14.
So, a little bit on that, actually. I think it is, I don't know if this is a later fact, I can't remember exactly, but I think Michael Tavera is the person responsible for the music in the Invader Zim pilot, because if you watch the Invader Zim pilot, it definitely does have that more, like, traditional 90s alien show idea to the music, whereas the new composer, Kevin Manthe, in fact, I think this is this next fact here, he definitely does more music. Like, when you hear anything Kevin Manthe, you just think of Invader Zim now, honestly.
Kevin Manthe replaced Tavera and was nominated for Outstanding Individual Achievement for Music Score in Animated Television Production at the 2001 Annie Awards.
He should have won.
He has also created music for shows like Generator Rex and Robot Chicken. Number 15. Invader Zim's art style
Robot Chicken does not surprise me at all.
Overseas animation studio to learn. Animation director Steve Russell even admits it was the hardest style he had ever worked on, citing the characters' heads as the most complicated aspect of the design.
I suppose I could agree with that, but honestly, as someone who can barely draw, the Invader Zim art style is so easy for me to draw in because it's like square head, put a body to it. If it's somewhat disfigured, then just imagine that the head and the body are at different angles and you have an Invader Zim character. That's honestly all you have to do to draw for Invader Zim.
16. When development on the show was getting started, Steve Russell consulted with the crew of Futurama to figure out how to integrate 3D animation with 2D animation, as they were one of the first shows that merged the two mediums.
I want to watch Futurama. Where can I watch it?
They were very impressed by how seamlessly the Zim crew integrated both methods,
Oh, yeah.
specifically during the episode The Wetning, when Zim drops a colossal water balloon on the planet. Number 17. While the average number of storyboards for an 11-minute episode of an animated show usually comes to around 80 to 120 pages, Invader Zim's storyboards averaged in around 250 to 350 pages per 11-minute episode. This was because Invader Zim had a very dedicated attention to detail, outlining every ounce of a character's movements and method of acting.
This would unfortunately lead to its downfall because back in those days, I don't think it was recognized, especially by Nickelodeon. It's never been recognized, unfortunately, how much time and effort people go into to create the storyboards and the animation, and very expensive projects, and oftentimes with TV shows like this, especially something like this or like Steven Universe, there's a reason there's all this money. There's a reason there's all this detail. The creators want you to see a certain way that they want you to look at their show, and it has to be portrayed in this way. And I feel like that's the reason for a lot of argument, is because there's pushback, right? Because I feel like those who produce TV shows and are just high up don't really understand the creator's spirit necessarily behind this. I don't know, that's just my theory.
Nickelodeon was especially impressed by at the time. Number 18. When casting voice actors for the show, Vasquez didn't want actors that were capable of just doing zany voices because it felt less natural to him. He made a point to cast people with speaking voices that were naturally distinct and away from the norm, so that the cast didn't have to do voices, but rather just speak. Number 19. Zim was...
Truth be told, I think that is absolutely true. Because when you meet characters, voice actors like Richard Horvitz and Ricky Simons, you feel like Richard Horvitz is Zim, and it's not because he's been doing the voice for 30? No, God, no, 23 years, 22 years. It'll be 23 in March. But I feel like you can really see Zim in Richard's personality. I feel like if Richard were to meet Zim, it would be a seamless meeting, and I see the same in Ricky and Gurr, although I think Ricky is a little shyer than Gurr.
By Richard Stephen Horvitz. If you're a big fan of 90s Nicktoons and feel like you've heard his voice before, you have. He also played Daggett Beaver on the
Had to
Angry
eat
Beavers.
pizza, didn't
Number
I?
20. Horvitz was not always attached to play the role. For the original unaired pilot of Invader Zim, the titular Erkin Invader was originally played by Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill.
You know, I'll be honest with you, the final version of the pilot, which they'll discuss in this next fact, was put in by Billy West. And Billy West, I mean zero offense to him, but all I hear now when I watch the Invader Zim pilot is, like, if Fry was an alien. Like, if Fry and, oh no, what is his name? Zoidberg! Like, if Fry and Zoidberg fused, that would be Billy West's version of Zim in the pilot. It's not bad, but it's not Zim. Richard Horvitz, is the voice of Zim. But honestly, I feel like if Mark Hamill had been able to voice Zim, he would have turned into a much darker character. I mean, not only is he Luke Skywalker, who kind of turns dark and broody anyway, but he's also Fire Lord fucking Ozai. So, yeah.
Hamill was replaced before the pilot was shown to Nickelodeon execs because it didn't feel right to Vasquez. Hamill was replaced by voice acting legend Billy West, whose voice does appear in the unaired pilot. After the show was picked up, Vasquez decided to go with his original choice, Horvitz. Number 21.
Actually, there's a bit more depth to that. So, the way Richard Horvitz describes it, and you can look this up in an interview with him, is that because he was already stressing himself at the Nickelodeon studios with doing Angry Beavers, he did not think necessarily that it was the best idea to, I'm not sure if it's Richard Horvitz himself or Nickelodeon, one of the two parties didn't think it was necessarily the greatest idea to have Richard voicing two Nick shows at once because he was already putting a lot of stress on his voice. But by the time the first episode, The Nightmare Begins, which came out after the pilot, despite the pilot not airing publicly till like 2013, 2011, 10 or 11. By the time the Invader Zim Nightmare Begins was being recorded, Angry Beavers had ended, and so Richard was available, and he was able to come in and do the series and be the Zim we know and love.
The reason Zim has a pack is because Joan and Vasquez liked the idea of Zim always wearing something that resembled a backpack. Vasquez states that giving a backpack to Zim makes spelling out visual movement easier. Steve Russell also claims that this is because Vasquez himself loves wearing backpacks.
Not to mention, I love that, like, the backpack is incorporated so much into the Erkin biology that it's literally their brain. I mean, that's gotta be terrifying, but it's also really cool. And actually, Dib kind of gets a little bit of a pack for a while, in the episode Bad Bad Rubber Piggy.
Almost always be seen wearing one. Number 22. So what if Zim actually took over the Earth? Vasquez has said that if it were up to Zim, he would rule it all, but that the Erkin Armada would demean the planet to something like a parking lot. Well, maybe Zim could be the parking manager, the king of the parking lot. Number 23. Vasquez.
Truth be told, I feel like if Zim took over the Earth and all that, the Tallest wanted to do, the Tallest are idiots, by the way, Tallets Tallest are idiots, by the way. I feel like if Zim conquered the Earth and then all the tallest wanted it to be was a parking structure planet, I feel like that's where Zim would go full on Peridot and be like, no, you clods! This planet is worthy of greatness and Zim will make it great. I mean, it will probably just end up in flames with statues of Zim everywhere. So basically how it was in ETF, but still.
Wanted somebody without an acting background to play Gur because it was a perfect reflection of how much a messed up and broken machine Gur actually is. He wanted somebody that wasn't slick and sounded unprofessional. Number 24. Gur's adorably irksome voice was provided by Ricky Simon. Gur was his first SAG voiceover
I love the
job,
pun.
yet he was a background movie actor through the 90s. One movie he recalls being in was Airheads. He was a colorist on the Invader Zim staff who had a unique voice that resonated with Jonan Vasquez's demented mind. Ricky jokingly offered to audition, and he got the part. The same month he auditioned, he also helped color the pilot in November 1998. Number 25. Ricky auditioned some different voices for his Gur voice. His first voice was trying to imitate his mother-in-law, but it was too shrieky. He then remembered...
Just Gur. The image that gave me like if Dib and Zim got together and Gur was like a mother-in-law to Dib, just like, you're not taking care of my master properly. I'm gonna cut you. Come here. God.
Back in the day when he would play with hand puppets with his dad and did one of those voices. Number 26. Frequently, after Gur drinks something, he launches into an inexplicable coughing fit. This
like
is
I just
the
did.
fact that Ricky Simons has asthma, and making Gur slurping noises for more than 5 seconds
Poor
causes
Ricky.
him to cough for a minimum of a minute straight. Number 27. In the Urkin army, all invaders get a robot companion called SIR, or SIR, a standard issue information retrieval unit. The G in Gur stands for, well, garbage, since he is made out of garbage parts. Number 28. A scrapped concept of Gur's character design was that he originally filled his dog suit with ground beef to give his body something of a fleshy consistency. At least he was putting more thought into his disguise than Zim, or maybe it was just another way he could store another snack in his body. Number 29.
Honestly, it's
Dib
probably
wears
the
a
second
t-shirt
one.
identical to that of the character Squee from Jonan Vasquez's spin-off Johnny the Homicidal Maniac comic called Squee. Number 30. Vasquez chose to make Dib's father a scientist so that Dib would have access to advanced technology to combat Zim's advanced Urkin technology. But who really needs it?
Oh, you guys, there is a video that I want to add extra commentary to, and please, if you want to see it, let me know. But there's a video by Film Theory where it's basically almost put as fact that Dib is an alien, if not Urkin, and I 100% support that theory, and I don't know, I think if Invader Zim gets rebooted and Jonan isn't in charge of it, I think that theory could honestly be very plausibly brought to fruition. I can honestly see an Invader Zim reboot being done in the next like 5 to 10 years by Netflix or something, because they already have ETF, and I think it's well deserved. I want to make a video too on what we could potentially realistically see in an Invader Zim reboot. If you want to see all these videos, please let me know.
Alien technology when you've got super toast. Number 31. At one point in development, Nickelodeon executives did not like the fact that Dib wore a trench coat, as it reminded them of the shooters of Columbine High School, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, who wore trench coats as well. They opted to have him wear something else, but their efforts were unsuccessful. Number 32. Dib's coat was just the tip of the iceberg. During the show's first season, the execs at Nickelodeon didn't find Dib to be that interesting of a character. In an effort to remedy the situation, Vasquez pitched an in-house initiative called God Save the Dib to the character artist. It was to make slight readjustments to Dib's design and personality to make him more appealing. One of these changes was making Dib's head much bigger than his body, a change that became a recurring joke in the show. Number 33.
So, I'm not sure if the next fact is going to talk about this, but I want to touch on this. The original idea to solve Nickelodeon's problem with Dib was actually to kill Dib off in the episode Bad Bad Rubber Piggy. If you've watched the episode, you would know it, but if you haven't, essentially Zim sends rubber pigs back to the past and replaces them with stuff so it'll try to kill Dib, and it fails because, you know, Dib's dad is a scientist. He gives him a lot of inventions so that he can live. He does care about Dib, just not emotionally, which is a problem. But Nickelodeon's problem with Dib is one of the absolute many things that makes the reason why Invader Zim wasn't necessarily a show meant for Nickelodeon, I feel like. Also, on the subject of the trench coat, my partner, or my fiance, just got a leather trench coat very similar to Dib's real one. So we now call it the Dib jacket, and it lives in our closet, and it's very happy.
Isn't the only one that knows Zim is an alien. According to Vasquez, Gaz is well aware of Zim's true identity and his plans for global conquest, but couldn't care less because, unlike Dib, she knows Zim is too incompetent to pull through with his ultimate goal. Number 34. Gaz's name is short for Gasoline, which is a play on gasoline. This is rather fitting with her personality as well. Like gasoline, when ignited, Gaz has a very fiery temper. Number 35. Although Steve Russell states that Gaz possesses vague supernatural abilities to a certain degree, Vasquez confirms that Gaz doesn't have any powers at all. She's just someone you don't want to anger. Seriously, don't even try.
I don't know. I feel like I'm more with Russell on this one rather than Jonan because Gaz clearly displays supernatural abilities. Look at any episode that she's in, and yeah, some of it's just anger, but with stuff like the rain in Game Slave 2, anything that she did to Iggins in that episode, actually, there's another episode where she has kind of supernatural powers. Is it Bad Rubber Piggy? No, not that one. Gas Daster of Pork. There's so many pig episodes, y'all. I sometimes I get confused on the titles. Even I admit that.
36. Of all the characters on the show that he's written for, Vasquez says he enjoys writing for Gaz the most. He claims that, to him, Gaz is the most relatable character on the show, and that her anger towards everybody around her is justified, especially when those people are Dib and Zim. In fact, he feels like he didn't work on her character enough. Number 37.
That was resolved in Enter the Florpus. I love her in Enter the Florpus. I want to make a whole video on Gaz's character changes. I gotta start writing these ideas down, because I'm gonna lose them otherwise. People remind me of them in the comment section. I know my fiance is gonna like furiously watch this video and take them down in the comment section or like send them to me in a text or something. Just because that's how she is. She keeps me motivated and I love her for it.
To Vasquez, the characters in the series don't have definitive ages. However, he has said that Dib is around 11 years old, Gaz is 1 year younger than Dib, and Zim is older than any human alive. He looks pretty good for somebody over 122 years old. Number 38. Scientific genius Professor Mem.
Okay. This is actually a fact that I want to address very quickly. I'm going to talk more about this fact in an upcoming video that I have on Zader. But Zim is the equivalent of 150 Earth years old, according to Jonan Vasquez. However, additionally, according to Jonan Vasquez, one Urkin year is approximately 10.6 Earth years. So, if you do the math and you kind of round down in some places, that makes Zim just about 4 years older mentally and in terms of his own experience and the way his years work than Dib. And he has kind of that childish level of experience. In fact, all Urkins do. And I just wanted to point that out because that's never been stated anywhere before, but I did read it. I believe it was an interview from Jonan Vasquez. I don't think it was on the Zim Wiki. I think it was actually on a reliable source. I'm going to have to try to do some research. It probably won't be linked in this description, but if I find it, I'll put it in a community post.
Was played by Roger Bumpus, who is known for playing Dr. Light from Teen Titans and the underappreciated genius Squidward Tentacles.
He is an underappreciated genius. Oh, my heart. I kind of like Squidward, not gonna lie.
39. Vasquez has confirmed via his blog that Dib, Gaz, Johnny, and Professor Membrane are all Mexican. He draws them as, quote, pasty white Mexican because Vasquez wanted to have the characters represent his sister and his family. Vasquez stated this was never mentioned on the show because it never served the story. Number 40. Voicing the cold and demonic Miss Bitters was a huge contrast to the other roles Lucille Bliss had played in the past. The accomplished actress had
God rest her
previously played roles
soul.
in Disney films like Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, and Peter Pan, but the warmest and most innocent of her roles was definitely Smurfette from the Smurfs. Boy, time sure does change people. Number 41. Miss Bitters...
You want to know something really funny? I got into the Smurfs a little bit after Invader Zim, and then when I was about 17 or 18, I found out that Smurfette and Miss Bitters were the same person, and I think I legitimately fell off my bed. I was so surprised. Yeah. Also, I think Miss Bitters definitely has some sort of alien or supernatural abilities as well. I feel like Dib needs to kind of put some investigation into his teacher as well.
Identical to the teacher characters seen in Squee. Does this mean that Invader Zim and Squee exist in a shared universe? Look, we're not the ones that cover conspiracies on cartoons. Go bug that other show about it. Number 42. Miss Bitter's movements were based on the movements of ghosts, snakes, and the velociraptors from Jurassic Park. I bet nobody in that class ever misses a homework assignment. Number 43. God. Almighty Tallest Purple wasn't the only alien oaf Kevin McDonald has played. He's also the man behind Agent Pleakley from the Lilo and Stitch franchise.
I feel like there was a skipped fact there because Kevin McDonald did voice Tallest Purple. He was actually supposed to voice Red, but then he was going to voice Red and Wally Wingert was going to voice Purple. But when they figured out that Red was going to be kind of the more serious guy and Purple is going to be more of like the kind of stupid guy, they did the switcheroo and now here we are.
Number 44. According to Wally Wingert, the Almighty Tallest Red's voice actor, the Almighty Tallest aren't actually tall Urkins. Rather, they're average-sized Urkins placed inside robotic suits that make them appear taller.
Actually, there is some basis behind this. So in the Invader Zim episode, The Trial, right, which was an unaired episode, but it is canon to the universe, Zim murdered two Tallis. All right, so he murdered Tallis Miyuki. And then 2 days later, Tallis Spork was killed. They weren't directly killed by Zim. They were killed by an invention Zim made. But Red and Purple were the tallest of all Urkins at the time, despite not being much taller than the average Urkin. So they were inducted as the tallest. And Jonan, I believe that the Q&A panel after the script reading did confirm this particular theory. If I remember correctly, that they are just in suits of armor.
This has never been confirmed. Number 45. As per Urkin tradition, those that are promoted to Almighty Tallest must cut off their thumbs. However, Steve Russell believes that Almighty Tallest's Red and Purple were slick enough to dodge this and probably
they probably did
within their gauntlets. Number 46. The Almighty Tallest's obsession is based on their amplified childish behavior. This obsession sounds awfully similar to Jonan Vasquez's own cravings for junk food. Steve Russell claims that Vasquez would frequently make small trips to the 7-Eleven near the Nick Animation studio.
Yeah, that was in the commentary.
Always be eating various snack foods, especially the fruity ones that would make the rest of the crew's stomachs turn. Number 47. The Urkin's very own punching bag, Invader Scooge, was played by Ted Raimi, the brother of acclaimed director Sam Raimi, who's responsible for films like The Evil Dead and the original Spider-Man trilogy. Some of Ted's other noteworthy roles include Jockster from Xena Warrior Princess and Hoffman from his brother's Spider-Man films. Number 48. The voice of Zim's incredibly unenthusiastic computer is none other than Vasquez himself. Number 49. While Zim is the title character of the show, Dib has actually appeared in more episodes and has his name in more episode title cards. Zim...
I cannot confirm whether or not that is true, but there actually is one other part to this fact I'm going to debunk real quick.
Appears in 27 episodes, while Dib appears in 28. Game Slave 2 is the only episode where the Invader isn't featured.
That is not true, actually. So, the episodes where Zim himself is not actually featured, I can't count Battle Dib because we actually do see that Dib is trying to thwart Zim by meeting with the Swollen Eyeball. So I can't count that one. However, there is also the Sad, Sad Tale of Chickenfoot, which is another episode where Zim isn't even in. So that's 2. If I remember any more, you'll probably either see a pinned comment or an edit to the description with any more, but hang on, let me just think for a minute. I don't think there's any other episodes where Zim isn't in, but I do know there's quite a few episodes Dib is not in. Dib is not in one of the very first episodes, which is Walk of Doom. He's not in that one. He's not in Germs either. He's not in that one. He is in Dark Harvest. He He is in Career Day. A little bit in Planet Jackers. He is not in FBI Warning of Doom. He is not, oh, I know there's an episode where Dib isn't in it. Oh, he's not in, actually he technically is in Girl Goes Crazy and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot more episodes that do solely feature Zim. Oh, Dib is not in Attack of the Toxer Morons. I don't know why I thought Dib was in Attack of the Toxer Morons. He is not. Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 Dib, Zim episodes that do not feature, Dib in them. But there are 2 episodes that I can think of right now that don't feature Zim.
To be fair, the show is called Invader Zim, so he has Dib beat there.
Yeah.
Number 50. Invader Zim's iconic title sequence caught the attention of the World Animation Celebration, which awarded it the best title sequence in 2001. Number 51. Invader Zim began strong with its first episode, The Nightmare Begins, which won storyboard artist Kyle Menk a Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Individual in Animation at the 2001 Primetime Emmy Awards. This episode also earned Steve Russell the Annie Award for Outstanding Individual Achievement for storyboarding in an
Rightfully earned. I think The Nightmare Begins is arguably the best opening episode of a cartoon, next to I think the only thing that honestly nothing really beats in terms of the type of cartoon it is, The Nightmare Begins. I think the one that might come the closest to it is the 3-part opening to Star Wars Rebels, but even then, I don't know, just there's something about The Nightmare Begins that just catches you in a way that no other cartoon really has done, and I very much appreciate that.
52. When Zim is cycling through his disguise options in The Nightmare Begins, he cites 2 of the rejected disguises as too ugly and too stinky. The ugly design is the animated cameo of series creator Jonan Vasquez, while the stinky design is series director Steve Russell. These cameo appearances were not commissioned by Russell or Vasquez, rather they were planted by the show's storyboard artists. Russell and Vasquez's cameos would become a running gag amongst the show's staff, who would continue to randomly place them throughout various episodes until Vasquez asked them to stop, as he felt that they were distracting and too distinct as background characters. Number 53. There are more cameos in the show than just Russell and Vasquez. Several cast and crew members insert themselves, like Aaron Alexovich, the character designer, Rob Hummel, the writer, and Ricky Simons, the voice of Gurn. Number 54. Zim's classmate, Old Kid, was modeled after a former security guard at the Nickelodeon animation studio named Don Newhouse, who unfortunately passed away in 2015. Newhouse was known for making his way into other Nickelodeon shows like SpongeBob SquarePants and Fanboy and Chum Chum.
There's actually something else about him. So the line that he says as New Kid, where he goes, "How's it going?" That's actually based off of how he would greet Jonan and the others when they would enter the Nickelodeon animation studio. He was always just like, oh dear gracious. That's one heck of a cat fight. Anyway, so the way he would greet the writers and Jonan at the Nickelodeon studios is what inspired that line of "How's it going?" And now it's immortalized in The Nightmare Begins, and it's honestly really sweet.
55. Surprisingly enough, Dark Harvest was the first script after The Nightmare Begins to be approved by Nickelodeon. For those of you that need a reminder, Dark Harvest was the episode in which Zim steals other children's vital organs for himself. Dark Harvest.
They did not know what they were signing up for.
Lungs of Zim's darkness. Did Nickelodeon forget their children's network? Number.
I feel like that should have been a Rick and Morty episode. Okay, who here thinks Rick would actually do what Zim did in that episode for some reason if he needed to? Let me know in the comments.
56. At the start of Dark Harvest, you can see a tiny pink bunny floating in a jar. This creature is actually another reference to Jonan Vasquez's comics, a character of his named Filler Bunny from the comic of the same name that ran for 3 issues. Number 57. According to Steve Russell, Nickelodeon held a test screening of Dark Harvest, during which one girl ran out of the room crying before the episode even ended. The rest of the kids were clearly terrified by what they saw, but put on faces of bravery to impress one another. Number 58. The episode Bestest Friend took a bit of inspiration from Jonan Vasquez's experience while working on the pilot. There, he met an animator named Heath, which he eventually befriended. Heath's name and cyborg eyes were inspired by Heath. Number 59. Joan and Vasquez added a faded image of Gurr at the end of Bess's friend because they had to show that Keith wasn't dead. There was originally going to be a line of dialogue over the mushroom cloud, but the crew didn't find the line funny enough. In the end, they decided to go for the weird ending and slap Gurr on top of it. Number 60.
Actually, truth be told, a line of dialogue to go over a horror scene is actually not. Invader Zim wouldn't have been the first show to do that. In fact, I don't even know if what I'm about to talk about was the first show. But SpongeBob also did the same thing in the Halloween episode where SpongeBob shaves his sponginess off and he just like is walking around just with his brain hanging out. That was supposed to be how the end of the episode was, but when Nickelodeon kind of figured out, wait a minute, that is terrifying, they added in where the screen goes black and SpongeBob is like, don't worry, it goes back. So yeah, I don't know if this would have taken Invader Zim inspiration from SpongeBob or not. I don't know, I'm tired.
School kids jumping out of the window at the end of the day was a gag added by Steve Russell, who claims something like that happened in his life. When he was in art school, his classmates would be so eager to leave that they would exit out of the classroom windows and climb down the building's brick wall. Number 61. Zim overcame his weakness of water by coating himself in paste every day before he goes out into the world. On reflection, Steve Russell wishes they could have added a few scenes in other episodes where Zim bathes in paste.
I wish so too, that would have been so cool.
Just to keep things consistent and keep this fact in the viewers' heads. Number 62. When the show was in production, Gurr's voice actor, Ricky Simons, got a new car. The car was so bizarre and green that Vasquez and the crew thought it would be funny to watch it get crushed. So he wrote a gag into Invasion of the Idiot Dog Brain, in which a man is obsessing over his brand new car, only to have Gurr ironically crush it moments later.
That was actually a fact that they talked about in the Invader Zim DVD commentary for this episode, and it's still one of the most hilarious freaking facts I've ever heard.
Looked nothing like Ricky, the car was very similar to his model. Number 63. The writer of Plague of Babies, Rob Hummel, actually has a problem with babies in real life. He finds them disturbing, especially with the way they breathe so heavily. Number 64. The plot of the episode Plague of Babies is very similar in plot to the 60s horror film Village of the Damned. In both, it is revealed that the children of a small town are actually supernatural beings with abnormal abilities. Number 65. In Plague of Babies, you can see bunny dolls with human faces in Newcomb's room. These faces are that of storyboard artist Brian Konietzko. You may know him from his work on Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra, two awesome shows that he had a huge...
It still, like, warms my little heart that Brian Konietzko helped to storyboard Invader Zim. Like, that just, my heart, y'all. I love the Avatar: The Last Airbender franchise. It was my hyperfixation before Invader Zim, to be truthful with you. It didn't get as big as Zim got, but it was up there.
And in co-creating. Number 66. In the episode of Plague of Babies, the goth girl from Vasquez's Meanwhile is visible in the background. Number 67. Invader Zim was influenced by the works of Canadian film director David Cronenberg, known for his disturbing body horror films.
Who would then also be taken off many years later by Rick and Morty.
Balonius Maximus, in which Dib slowly transforms into Baloney, is heavily based on Cronenberg's film The Fly, starring Jurassic Park star Jeff Goldblum. The Fly tells the story of a scientist who accidentally causes himself to transform into a disgusting, half-human, half-fly hybrid. Number 68. The episode Germs is a tribute to the science fiction story The War of the Worlds, in which humans defeat their alien invaders using the latter's vulnerability to germs that humans had built up an immunity for. Number 69. According to Joan Vasquez, the man dressed as Poop Dog hates his life and his job, and is
also revealed in the
Poop Dog
commentaries.
against his will. Vasquez likes to think of the film crew as holding his family hostage, and the only way they'll be let go is if he abides to their terms. Number 70. The alternative future Zim shows his customers when he manipulates them into buying his candy in the episode Door to Door. The future simulation was originally a burning city that resembled New York, but after 9/11, the sequence was replaced. On reflection, Vasquez actually prefers the replacement.
That was also revealed in the commentaries.
Funnier, but he also disliked the inclusion of a real-life city in the Invader Zim world. Number 71. The plain white look of the room with a moose was based off the empty white and barren rooms seen in the Stanley Kubrick film 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Not gonna lie, I thought he was about to say Stanley Parable. But that hadn't even come out yet. That didn't come out till... the Half-Life mod didn't come out till 2009, and then Stanley Parable, the game itself, originally released in 2013, and then with Ultra Deluxe in 2022. Yeah, I know a lot about the Stanley Parable.
72. The paranormal investigator that Dib shadows during career day was designed after the Smith agents from the Matrix trilogy. He was supposed to be voiced by Bruce Campbell, star of the Evil Dead films, but this unfortunately never came to pass. Number 73. Game Slave 2 was written to be a mockery of the hype culture that ensued for the launch of the PlayStation 2, which had launched the previous year, and the Microsoft Xbox, which was preparing to launch when the episode was being developed. Vasquez and the crew were effectively mocking themselves, as they too were huge gamers. Number 74.
I love when writers do that. I love when they mock themselves in their own writing. I kind of do that all the time too, whenever I like write anything. So like, I feel that and I love that.
A Fargo reference in Invader Zim, the binary conversion between the Planet Jackers in the episode with the same name mirrors the Twin Cities conversion between Steve Buscemi and Peter Stormare in Fargo. Number 75. The episode Mortos del Sol Stealer has a slightly modified opening sequence. If you pause the sequence just as one of the cables from Zim's house engulfs the screen, you can see a still image of Gurr covered in blood. This is the infamous Bloody Gurr picture. It was created when Nickelodeon refused to show blood and gore on the show, so the crew slipped a frame of it in a few episodes. Ricky Simons.
This is one of the many reasons that I think the show would have definitely gone over much better on like Cartoon Network and Adult Swim. But you know, things happened as they did, and we are very grateful for what we do have for Invader Zim.
Voice of Gurr was a background painter for the show and actually colored Bloody Gurr. Number 76. The aliens featured in the episode Abducted are identical to the aliens that appear in Jonan Vasquez's Squee. The aliens are equally as incompetent in both incarnations. Number 77. The voices of the aliens in Abducted caused the Invader Zim staff a lot of trouble. The aliens were originally played by Jonan Vasquez and writer Eric Trueheart, but the Nick execs hated their performances. Cut them some slack. The writers. The staff then tried to get some of the guys behind Monty Python to voice the idiotic extraterrestrials, but they refused to work on anything together anymore. This prolonged search for voice actors pushed the episode's air dates far behind its intended release date. Number 78. Dib's
That was also revealed in the commentary.
episode Dib's Wonderful Life of Doom was heavily influenced by the events of Roland Emmerich's film Independence Day. Number 79. The original idea behind Zim Eats Waffles was to have the longest single-shot in animation history that would just consist of Dib sitting at a computer watching Zim's antics in one room of his home base. But this severely limited the episode's storytelling capabilities. At least most of the episode is confined to a single space. Number 80. The horns on the head of the Resisti leader, Lard Nar, were actually meant to be moving pincers, but the rest of the crew were unaware that Vasquez intended for that to be the case, so they were misinterpreted as dull, boring stationary horns. Number 81. All of the first season and part of the second season of the series were produced before Nickelodeon canceled the show, since it had low ratings among the channel's target audience and the high cost of making the show. Number 82. After the episode The Fry Cook That Came From All That Space in 2002, all the other episodes were scrapped and the show was canceled. A total of 9 finished episodes went unaired. Some of these episodes eventually did air 4 years later, starting with Backseat Drivers from Beyond the Stars, which premiered in the US on the Nicktoons network on June 10, 2006. Number 8.
I love this because there's actually been something that has gone around for a little bit where people are thinking that episodes like Zim Eats Waffles and Backseat Drivers and all that set of season 2 were never released. Go on Paramount Plus. They're on there. I promise you. They have been released. They were released in 2006. My cat is now rubbing against me.
3. The episode The Most Horrible Xmas Ever was created out of order, which is evident by the presence of the Mini-Moose, who was thrown in without a proper introduction. This is because Mini-Moose's introductory episode, Nubs of Doom, was intended to be made before the Christmas special. But because Nickelodeon was planning on shutting the show down, the show's staff had to pick their final episodes very carefully. Vasquez decided that he was more excited about The Most Horrible Xmas
That was
Ever
also revealed in the
episodes that were
commentaries.
planned to come before it, so Nubs of Doom went unfinished.
Nubs of Doom's audio and all the other unaired audio can be found on YouTube. People, very talented people, have done animatics of them. The most popular ones to be animated are The Trial and 10 Minutes to Doom, and of course, we cannot forget Soapy Waffles Animation's lovely mopiness of Doom, which honestly, I wish that episode had aired because that's like huge character growth. I could do a whole video on that episode, honestly.
4. When it became abundantly clear that Nick wanted to cancel Invader Zim, the show's staff intended to end it with an episode called 10 Minutes of Doom, in which Dib detaches Zim's pack, giving him 10 minutes in real time to get it back with a timer placed in the corner of the screen. The writers originally intended for Zim to die at the end of the episode to give the series a clean ending, but Nickelodeon refused on the grounds that they may have wanted to continue the series in the future, so Zim survived the ordeal. The episode.
So, let me get this straight. You want to cancel the show. You don't like the fact that the show is like how it is. But you don't want to kill off, like, the antagonist of the show in case you want to bring it back. Okay. Alright. The innate hypocrisy. Okay. Also, I just want to mention that the scripts for the unaired episodes can also be found online. A lot of people have done files of them. They're certainly very much available.
Was written and the voices were recorded, but the episode was never finished. Number 85. There was going to be a 2-part season finale involving Necrobs. The episode had outlines, but not a lot of anything else, so the fans dubbed this 2-part episode The Battle for Necrob. Number 86. If the series was properly funded and was made to its completion, then the last episode would have been a TV movie titled Invader Dib. Dib would have
I would have loved to see this, honestly.
And start a full-fledged war, eventually taking over. This would...
They actually talked quite a bit at length about this at the InvaderCon 2 panel where Jonan Vasquez was with everybody else. I think it was at either the opening ceremonies or the closing ceremonies. I know it was a panel where everyone was together. And he was talking about how Dib would basically be the invader and we get to see him take over Urk. It has never been made clear to me if Zim is alive at this point or not in Jonan's canon. I personally like to think that he is, like that he realized how incompetent his people were and he kind of wanted to take over Urk for himself and Dib wanted to help him with that to like destroy the threat of Earth. Again, all of this could potentially be stuff for an Invader Zim reboot. I would personally love to make an Invader Zim reboot myself. If I was ever part of that process in any way, I would be very happy.
Then after season 5, which means they had plans all the way to 5 seasons. Netflix, you revive old shows. Do something, please.
The really freaking sad part about this is that while Netflix does revive old shows, it is ultimately up to Jonan himself. And this is the really sad part, is that Jonan is very particular, and he would have very particular budget and very particular wants, and I don't know that Netflix would be able to accommodate that, either because of constraints on their end or because of Jonan's personality, I will say. But I don't know, we'll just have to see how time flows. I mean, they're reviving Avatar: The Last Airbender in 2025, I think. So yeah, or either that or 24, or it's already out yet. I don't know. I'll look that up later on after this. Anyway.
Number 87. There was a scrapped episode simply titled Pants, where an alien pair of pants invades Earth. Whoever wore these pants became an alien weapon. This was scrapped before cancellation because it was too similar to the episode when Pants attacked.
That one I get.
Neutron. However, the episode was eventually adapted in the comic. Number 88. Some of the scrapped episodes were kind of weird, even by the show's standards. One of the scrapped episodes was titled It Feeds on Noodles, where Zim becomes a vampire and feeds on Chinese food. He uses chopsticks as fangs. See? Weird.
So actually that would track even if he didn't become a vampire. Like if he just became addicted to Chinese food, even if he did become a vampire, could you imagine like him and Dib teaming up to help with that? But anyway, the reason that tracks is because most of the Urkin diet consists of carbohydrates. In fact, you can see that Zim is able to eat things like waffles, which is basically just like sugar and carbs and stuff. And so if he were to just eat noodles, which is essentially like just basically carbs, and like I can see him putting like syrup on them, like how Buddy and Elf like put syrup on spaghetti. That's Zim. Honestly, that's Zim in a nutshell.
9. During its initial broadcast, Invader Zim was the recipient of 3 awards and 7 nominations. Number 90. The show was nominated for 5 other Annie Awards in 2001, Outstanding Achievement in a Primetime or Late-Night Animated Television Production, Outstanding Individual Achievement for Directing in an Animated Television Production for Steve Russell for episode Dark Harvest, Outstanding Individual Achievement for Music Score in an Animated Television Production, Kevin Manthe, Outstanding Individual Achievement for Production Design in an Animated Television Production, Vasquez himself, and Outstanding Individual Achievement for Voice Acting by a Male Performer in an Animated Television Production, Richard Stephen Horvitz. Hot damn, that is a lot. Number 91.
Yes.
In March 2010, episodes of Invader Zim were aired on Nicktoons. The reruns were the second highest rated show on the network and, according to Vasquez, were part of a plan by the network to see if a revival of Invader Zim was feasible. Vasquez was to revive the show. However, the budget Nickelodeon proposed was deemed too small, prompting the crew to kindly decline the offer.
Oh, I hope we have enough time to get through this because my Mac is like already about to die. But honestly, I learned this fact in person at InvaderCon, and it is honestly quite ridiculously sad to me. It's one of the reasons that I don't think we'll see an Invader Zim revival, but there's a lot more reasons to suspect than to not suspect. Hopefully Jonan will mellow with age, and maybe less budget will be needed, or someone will come along, like Verve. Maybe Verve will give him more budget. Yeah. I hope we can get through this video because, my Mac's about to die.
To Gurr shorts. Apparently Ricky Simons was asked if he would like to do some little skits with Gurr back in 2011, but it never went anywhere. He's open to returning to his role of Gurr, but the chips never seem to fall that way. Number 93. Vasquez's favorite character is Dib. He loves his hair, his trench coat, and most importantly, his frustration with the world.
Jonan actually has said before that other than Zim, the character he relates to the most is Dib, so I see that.
Of a kid's affectation where they think something looks cool on them, but just makes them look a bit silly. Number 94. Vasquez jokes that his favorite episode of Invader Zim was actually a parody made by YouTube animator Hot Diggity Demon Dog. It was called Zim Zam the Spaceman and Robot Rudy. While he says this as a joke, he does believe that it was really well done. Number 95.
You know, actually, Richard was asked at InvaderCon to do a couple of sassy cats from that episode, and I felt so bad for him because he did not know what anyone was talking about, and it was honestly kind of sad.
Okay, but in all seriousness, Vasquez's personal favorite episode from the series is Backseat Drivers from Beyond.
That's one of mine too, honestly.
He believes the episode has the best humor while also maintaining a solid plot that wasn't lost in all of the craziness. To him, it's just a perfect episode. It's Ricky Simons' favorite episode too. Number 96. The show's fan base is so massive that an entire convention was created in celebration of the series called InvaderCon. It was held 3 times in 2011, 2012, and 2014 in the cities of Atlanta, Georgia, Austin, Texas, and LA, California. The initial event was created to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of Invader Zim, and an encore presentation of the convention, InvaderCon 2, DoomCon, took place in 2012.
I actually, this is the fact that made me want to make this video, and that is because the cities were presented out of order. So let me give you guys the straight facts on this. InvaderCon 1 was in Atlanta, Georgia. InvaderCon 2 was in Los Angeles, California, and InvaderCon 3 was in Austin, Texas. I know this very well because I attended InvaderCons 2 and 3. InvaderCon 2 was in July 2012, and InvaderCon 3, More Doom, was in July 2014. At both InvaderCons, many panels took place. InvaderCon 2 is the only one Jonan personally attended, and at both conventions, letter writing panels also took place. So yeah, the InvaderCon was a very big event and a very big deal for a lot of people, including me.
People involved in the show's production attended and hosted panels, including Richard Horvitz, Annie Bergman, Melissa Fahn, Ricky Simons, Roger Bumpus, and Jonan Vasquez himself. InvaderCon was in no way paid for or endorsed by Nickelodeon. Everything that went into it came out of the pockets of Zim's legion of devoted love pigs.
Yeah, for each InvaderCon, there was a Kickstarter campaign project. all of which were successful, including the one for InvaderCon 4, which was supposed to be in 2020, but because of the pandemic, it couldn't happen. And unfortunately, from what I hear, it doesn't look like they're gonna have any more in terms of plans. And I need to check with my friends, but if they watch this video, maybe they can tell me. I have a couple of friends who pledged money in terms of the Kickstarter for InvaderCon and had actually bought tickets. And then the convention was ended up being canceled, and I don't know if they honestly ever got their money back. But I'm really hoping that we can get an InvaderCon 4 at some point, because anything we can drum up for Invader Zim is good.
Number 97. At InvaderCon 2, the original cast got together to do a live reading of an Invader Zim script that never made it into production called The Trial.
I was there.
Would focus on an Irken event known as an existence evaluation, a trial in which the Irken's control brains review an Irken's past in order to determine whether or not they are worthy of being remembered in Irken history or deemed defective, in which case they are deactivated and erased from Irken history. The tallest bumped Zim's existence evaluation up by a few decades in an unsuccessful attempt to rid the Irken Empire of his antics forever. Number 98. The trial would have also shed more light on not only Zim's past, but of pasts of the current Almighty Tallists, Red and Purple. According
I had actually
to the
talked
events
about
of the
this already.
trial, Zim was responsible for the death of two previous Almighty Tallists, whose names were Miyuki and Spork. Both of these Tallists were consumed by an infinite energy-absorbing blob created by none other than Zim. Purple and Red were actually the same age as Zim, and were in the same training program as well.
Hence why Red and Purple were around the same size as Zim at the time of their coronation. Hence why they're in suits of armor meant to make them look taller that also float, rather than them being their average size.
9. After much talk, Oni Press announced that they were partnering with Nickelodeon and Jonan Vasquez to continue the Invader Zim series. But instead of an animated series, this continuation was in the form of a comic book series. Number 100. Several crew members from the original animated run returned to help with the comic series. This includes Jonan Vasquez himself, Eric Trueheart, Aaron Alexovic, and Ricky Simons. Like Jonan, Ricky had also worked on comics as a colorist and writer. He wrote for Robotech Clone in the 90s with his illustrator wife, Tavisha, as well as his own series, Rankle Chick and his three-legged cat. Number 101. In issue 0 of the Invader Zim comic, Truth Shrieker, it was implied, though never confirmed, that Dib is a clone of his father, Professor Membrane, and not his real son. Ooh, tough break, kid. Number 1.
Actually, while that was implied, not confirmed in the comics, it was confirmed by Jonan himself, also at a panel in InvaderCon 2.
2. Dib and Gaz didn't have an official last name until issue 5 of the comic series, and it was only assumed that their last name was Membrane. However, this was confirmed to be true, and their last name is indeed Membrane. I mean, what else would it be, am I right? Number 103. While Vasquez felt like Gaz was a bit simple in the animated series, he definitely likes Gaz better in the comic series. He feels as though she's more fleshed out and more fun in general.
And of course, this also came out in Enter the Florbus, where she is quite amazingly fleshed out.
104. Issue number 1, the first official issue of the series, graced us in its presence on July 8, 2015. Zim fans, you know what to do. Buy it. Number 105. Out of all the characters Vasquez was excited to get back to, he was probably most excited about Gaz. He was quoted saying, "I think she got the least love in the series. She just kind of had a role to play. There really wasn't much room for her to be more of a person." Number 106. Vasquez looks back on the Zim project fondly, but looking through his old jokes, he thinks to himself and says, "I don't think I would have let that through now." While he has grown to do new things, he understands that Zim has a lot of random humor that made it charming. According to him, quote, "For me, it's never been, hey, let's throw that in there because it's so random. That's why it's funny." Especially in terms of Gur. Gur does what he does, and there's no explanation for what Gur does than the fact that he's made out of garbage. Number 107. Jonan Vasquez brought the craziness of Invader Zim to Cartoon Hangover. He's responsible for writing the Bravest Warriors episode, The Puppetyville Horror, which you should totally go watch after this. And those are 107 facts you should know about Invader Zim.
Okay, y'all, so, this video is going to be in the description. The video we just watched is going to be in the description of this video that you're watching at this moment. So, if you want to watch it and leave any sort of comments or any sort of feedback on your thoughts on that video and this one, please let me know. I am quite sure I could drum up a number of other Invader Zim facts for you all. But I really enjoyed this video. I very much enjoyed that Channel Frederator went to the time to create this video. I feel like you know, a lot of the bigger mainstream series and things get looked at a lot more. And, you know, it's kind of nuts to me because when I was, you know, a kid, no one really knew what Invader Zim was, and I felt really isolated and alone. And now that I'm, you know, in my 20s, like, Invader Zim is almost mainstream, and it's kind of nuts. Like, I can't run into someone who has not heard of Invader Zim anymore, and it's honestly really cool for me to see how much Invader Zim has grown. This little thing that we were all kind of hoping would come back came back in the form of comics, and then of course in the movie, and hopefully we'll see another revival soon. But for now, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope I wasn't too much of a know-it-all. And I hope to see you all again in the next video. I'm going to let my Mac first cool itself off and then charge. And I will see you guys later on. So have a very happy holidays. This will most likely be the last video that goes up before the holidays, unless I can get the apartment tour up before that, but I offer no promises because the primary editor in our house is not feeling well. So just keep us together, okay? Love you all. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you a little later day. Bye bye.